I stood in front of 80 people at my father's 60th birthday party and pulled an envelope from my bag. My father was at the microphone, mid-sentence, telling everyone why I didn't deserve to be called his daughter. He had no idea what was in my hand. He had no idea I'd been carrying it for 7 years, waiting for this exact moment. And he definitely had no idea that in about 60 seconds, his entire life was about to collapse in front of everyone he knew. My name is Autumn Callahan. I'm 29 years old. And the story I'm about to tell you starts with 8 words my father said to me on my 18th birthday. Get out. I'm done paying for another man's mistake. He threw a $50 bill at my face when he said it. My grandmother was sitting in the next room. My brother Evan was on the stairs. 6 other relatives were at the kitchen table. Nobody said a word. That was April 2015. I walked out with 1 garbage bag of clothes and moved in with my Uncle Ben. I didn't cry that night. I made myself a promise instead. One day, my father would know exactly what he threw away. And it would be too late. 11 years later, I kept that promise. Let me take you back to where this really started. Back when my mom was still alive. My mother, Sarah, died of ovarian cancer when I was 10. Before she got sick, my father was already different with me. He'd ruffle Evan's hair at dinner, ask about his little league games, carry him on his shoulders. With me? Nothing. Not violent. Not loud. Just empty. But he kept the mask on while Mom was alive. The week after her funeral, the mask came off. I was sitting on the stairs one night and heard him on the phone. She doesn't look like anyone in this family. Never has. I was 10 years old. I didn't fully understand what he meant. But I understood the tone. After that, everything changed. Evan got new school clothes every August. I wore whatever came from the church donation bin. Evan got the bigger bedroom. I got moved to the room above the garage where the heating didn't work right. My grandmother, Nana, would visit on Sundays. She'd slip a $20 bill into my jacket pocket when nobody was looking and squeeze my hand too tight, like she was trying to say something her mouth couldn't form. Evan got a brand new mountain bike for his 12th birthday. I asked my father for $40 to buy a used biology textbook. He didn't even look up from the TV. Ask your real father, he said. I got a job at 15 washing dishes at Marco's Bistro. Mrs. Romano paid me $7 an hour under the table and let me eat leftover pasta after closing. That became my dinner most nights. The thing about being the invisible child is you learn to build a life out of scraps. You learn nobody's coming to save you. You learn that silence isn't peace. It's just everyone agreeing you don't matter. The day I turned 18, I baked my own cake. Funfetti, from a box. I set it on the kitchen counter, stuck a single candle in the center, lit it with a match from the junk drawer. My father walked in through the back door. Work boots, Carhartt jacket, sawdust in his hair. He saw the cake. He saw the candle. He saw me standing there alone. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a $50 bill, tossed it onto the counter. Happy birthday. Get out. I'm done paying for another man's mistake. Nobody said a word. I picked up the $50, folded it twice, put it in my back pocket, blew out the candle, and called Uncle Ben. He showed up 40 minutes later in his white Ford pickup. I walked out with 1 garbage bag of clothes. I didn't look back. But I made a promise to myself on that porch. Uncle Ben lived above his auto repair shop. 2 bedrooms, water stains on the ceiling. He'd cleared out his storage closet before I got there. Put in a twin mattress, a desk lamp, a folded quilt. It wasn't much. It was everything. You're home now, he said. Ben was my mom's younger brother. Army veteran. Never married. He didn't ask me what happened. He just pointed to the bathroom towels and told me breakfast was at 7. But Dean didn't stop at the front door. He took his story on the road. Within a month, I started noticing the silence. Calls went unanswered. Cards went unreturned. Ben finally told me what was happening. Your father's been making calls. Telling people your mother confessed on her deathbed. saying Sarah admitted you weren't his. I felt the floor tilt. That's not true. I know it's not. Then why does everyone believe him? Because he's been saying it for years, and your mother's not here to say otherwise. That was the part that gutted me. He weaponized my mother's death, used her silence to rewrite history. The call came 3 years after I left. I was 21, halfway through nursing school, when my phone buzzed. Autumn, it's Molly. Molly Price. I was your mother's best friend. I heard what your father's been telling people, Molly said. About your mother. About a deathbed confession. It's not true, I said. Sweetheart, I know it's not. I was at that hospital every single day. Then she said something that rearranged everything. Your mother didn't have a secret, Autumn. But your father does. When your mom was pregnant with you, she started suspecting Dean was seeing someone. She never had proof, but she told me more than once he'd come home at strange hours smelling like perfume she didn't own. Molly paused. If you ever want the truth, science doesn't lie. You just need a sample. I waited a year before I acted. Not because I was hesitant. Because I needed to be certain I was doing this for the right reason. I wasn't trying to win Dean back. I was trying to protect my mother's name. The chance came at Thanksgiving. I was 22. Evan called me, first time in 4 years. Dad's going to the game at noon. Come by for 30 minutes. I drove to the house. We sat at the kitchen table with instant coffee. Talked about nothing. Then the front door opened. Dean stood in the hallway, keys in hand. He looked at me like I was a stain on his floor. What are you doing here? Evan invited me. She's not family. Period. I stood up, reached for my jacket, and on my way out, I picked up the coffee mug Dean had just set on the counter. Still warm. His fingerprints. His saliva. His DNA. I slipped it into my coat pocket and walked out. 4 weeks later, the results came in a plain white envelope. I opened it at Ben's kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. Paternity index, 8,746,291 to 1. Probability of paternity, 99.998%. Dean Callahan is the biological father of Autumn Callahan. I didn't move for 20 minutes. I'd expected it. But knowing and seeing are two different things. I cried then. Not the way you cry when you're sad. The way you cry when someone confirms that everything done to you was for nothing. 22 years of being called a stranger's child. All of it built on a lie Dean needed to believe because the alternative was looking in the mirror. Ben came home and found me at the same table, eyes swollen, the letter smooth flat in front of me. He read it. Set it down. I know, kid. I always knew. Your mother told me she never once stepped outside that marriage. I mailed the results to Dean the next morning. 2 weeks later, it came back. Stamped across the front in red, Return TO Sender. He didn't even open it. I put the returned envelope in my nightstand drawer and closed it. I didn't chase him. Instead, I built a life. I graduated nursing school that May, second in my class. Ben was in the front row, clapping like I just won the lottery. I got hired at Lincoln Park Medical Center, pediatric ward. By 26, I'd saved enough for a down payment on a 1-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy. But the lease had my name on it. Just mine. Then Dean announced his 60th birthday party. 80 guests. Catered. A banner and a microphone. 6 months before that party, my grandmother died. Nana Callahan, 82 years old, congestive heart failure. I didn't go to the funeral. Dean made it clear my presence would cause a scene. 3 weeks later, I got a call from a lawyer's office. Nana had left something for me. An envelope. Sealed. For Autumn only, to be delivered after my passing. I opened it in my car. Inside was a letter. 3 pages in blue ink. Nana's handwriting trembled, the pen strokes of a woman whose hands were failing but whose mind was not. Nana started with an apology. She told me she'd known the truth for almost 30 years. She caught Dean with a woman named Michelle in the backseat of his truck parked behind the VFW hall. 6 months before I was born. Sarah was 7 months pregnant. Dean begged his mother to stay quiet. Nana did. Because he was her son and she was afraid of losing him. The third page was the part that broke me open. Autumn, you were always my granddaughter. You were always Dean's child. Your mother never betrayed anyone. Your father did. And I helped him hide it by staying silent. I am sorry. Nana had signed it. Dated it. At the bottom, a notary stamp. I called Molly that evening. Nana wrote me a letter. She knew about Michelle. Silence. Then, she told you. You knew Nana knew? Your mother carried that alone, Autumn. And for the first time, I saw the full picture. Dean didn't hate me because I wasn't his. He hated me because I was. And every time he looked at me, he saw Sarah. And every time he saw Sarah, he remembered what he'd done. I wasn't the evidence of her sin. I was the evidence of his. I put both documents into a new envelope. Set it in my drawer. 3 weeks later, Evan called. Dad's turning 60. There's a party Saturday. 80 people. He doesn't want me there, Evan. I want you there. You're my sister. In 27 years, Evan had never said those words out loud. Why now? Because Maya's pregnant. And I've been thinking about what kind of family I want this kid to grow up in. I thought about it for 3 days. What do you want to do? Ben asked. I want to go. For Evan. For Mom. Then go. I'll be outside in the truck in case you need to leave fast. Saturday morning, I got dressed. I picked up the envelope from my drawer and slipped it into my bag. Just in case. The party was in full swing when I pulled up. String lights zigzagged between the garage and the fence. A folding table held a cooler and a sheet cake. Ben's truck was parked 2 houses down. He caught my eye and gave me a single nod. I walked through the gate. Evan met me. You came. I came. He led me to a chair at the far end. I sat down. Set my bag on my lap. Then I looked up and found Dean's eyes across the yard. His smile disappeared the second he saw me. For the first hour, Dean pretended I wasn't there. He worked the crowd. The hard-working plumber. The devoted father. The man who sacrificed everything for his family. Around 7, someone clinked a glass. Dean walked to the center of the yard where a microphone stand had been set up. He talked about his life, his work. Then he called Evan up. This is my boy, Dean said into the mic, my only boy. My legacy. My only. Some of you know my first wife made choices. Choices I had to live with for 18 years. He paused. This house. Everything I built. It goes to Evan. Because family means blood. Real blood. Then Sean, my cousin, said what nobody else would. What about Autumn? Dean's head turned slowly toward Sean. Then toward me. He smiled. The kind of smile that isn't a smile at all. Autumn. She's here as a guest tonight. Not as my daughter. The yard went still. I kept my mouth shut for years out of respect for her mother's memory. But since she decided to show up tonight, everyone deserves the truth. She was never mine. I felt every pair of eyes in that yard land on me. Molly Price reached over and put her hand on my shoulder. I'm here. I sat perfectly still. My hands were under the table, gripping the strap of my bag. Because I'd been waiting for this. Dean smiled at the crowd, triumphant. He had no idea what was in my bag. I stood up slowly. The chair scraped against the patio stone. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke the way I speak to a parent at the hospital when I'm delivering results they didn't expect. Clear. Measured. Respectful. Dean, you've spent 29 years telling that story. Can I have 60 seconds to tell mine? His smile faltered. He shrugged. Go ahead. Won't change the facts. Thank you. I opened my bag. Pulled out the envelope. Thick. Cream-colored. worn at the edges from years in a drawer. I held it up. Some of you might not know this, but 7 years ago I mailed this envelope to Dean. He sent it back unopened. Returned to sender. A murmur rippled through the crowd. What is that? Dean said. This is what you were too afraid to open. I broke the seal. Inside were 2 documents folded together. I'm going to read one paragraph. And then I'm going to leave. 80 people held their breath. I unfolded the DNA results and read them out loud. Paternity test conducted by Precision Diagnostics Lab dated March 14, 2019. Sample A, cheek swab, Autumn Callahan. Sample B, saliva trace, Dean Callahan. Dean's face was locked. The beer bottle in his hand had stopped halfway to his mouth. Paternity index, 8,746,291 to 1. Combined probability of paternity, 99.998%. I lowered the paper. Dean Callahan is the biological father of Autumn Callahan. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, packed tight with the sound of 80 people recalculating everything they'd been told for 3 decades. Dean spoke first. That's fake. She fabricated it. I held the paper toward Sean. Lab name, phone number, case reference number. All printed at the bottom. Call them right now if you want. Sean took the paper. Read it slowly. Looked up at Dean. It's from Precision Diagnostics, Dean. It's legit. I don't care where it's from. The reference number's right here. Anyone with a phone can verify it in 5 minutes. Dean's mouth opened. Closed. This doesn't prove anything. But his voice had changed. The command was gone. I reached into the envelope for the second document. The DNA is only half of it. I unfolded 3 pages of lined paper covered in shaky blue handwriting. This is a letter written by Nana, your mother, Dean. Written 3 months before she died. Notarized by her attorney. Something crossed Dean's face. Not anger, fear. My mother wouldn't. She did. I didn't read the whole letter. I read 2 sentences. I caught Dean with a woman named Michelle behind the VFW hall in October, 6 months before Autumn was born. Sarah never cheated. My son did. And I stayed silent because I was a coward. The yard erupted. Not in noise. In motion. People shifted in chairs. Hands went to mouths. Dean grabbed the edge of the table. His knuckles were white. She was confused. She was old. Molly Price stood up slowly. Deliberately. She wasn't confused, Dean. I was there too. Sarah cried on my couch for 3 hours the night she found out about Michelle. She never once thought about leaving you. But you never stopped punishing her for what you did. The microphone was still on. Every word carried. Evan, who had been standing beside Dean this whole time, took 1 step back. Then another. He hadn't known about any of it. This is my birthday, Dean shouted. His hand slammed the table. You planned this. I came because Evan asked me to. She's trying to get the house. I don't want your house, Dean. I have my own home. I don't need anything from you. He looked around the yard, searching for an ally. But every face he found was either looking away or looking through him. Sean set the DNA paper on the table. Aunt Donna was crying quietly. A man from Dean's plumbing crew put down his plate and walked toward the gate. Then Evan spoke. Dad, is it true about Michelle? The whole yard held still. Dean looked at his son, the one he'd built his entire identity around. And for one moment, I thought he might tell the truth. But Dean just stood there, jaw working, eyes wet, saying nothing. Evan's hand dropped from his father's shoulder. That's what I thought, Evan whispered. I could have stopped there. But Dean had asked one question for 29 years. And I decided he deserved an answer. You always wanted to know who my real father is, I said. Dean's eyes snapped to mine. He's standing right outside. I pointed toward the front of the house. Through the side gate, you could see Ben's white Ford pickup. And there, leaning against the driver's side door with his arms crossed, was Uncle Ben. Steady. The way he'd been for 11 years. When Dean saw Ben, something drained from his face. Ben taught me to drive, I said. Ben paid for nursing school. Ben showed up every Christmas. You didn't. I folded the documents, placed them on the table. DNA says you're my father. But Ben is my dad. Keep these. This time, try opening them. I picked up my bag. Walked toward the gate. Behind me, I heard a chair scrape. Then another. Molly was already at the gate, holding it open. Sean nodded as I passed. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I just walked out of that yard, down the driveway, into the rest of my life. Ben opened the passenger door before I reached the truck. I climbed in. He closed it behind me. Got in. Started the engine. Neither of us spoke for 2 blocks. You okay? Ben said. I'm done. Finally, I'm done. He nodded. Reached over and turned on the radio. And then I cried. Not grief. This was different. This was the sound of something heavy being set down after carrying it so long your arms forgot what empty felt like. I cried for my mother, for Nana, for the 10-year-old on the stairs, for the 18-year-old who baked her own birthday cake. I cried for all of them. And then I stopped. Ben didn't ask me to explain. He just drove, one hand on the wheel. When we pulled into the parking lot behind his shop, he killed the engine. You said what needed to be said. That's enough. I wiped my face. Yeah, it is. The next morning, I wrote an email to Mrs. Palmer, the attorney who'd handled Nana's letter. I had no interest in Dean's property or inheritance. I wanted exactly one thing, that Dean stop repeating the story that Sarah Callahan confessed to infidelity, because there was now documented evidence proving that story was false. This wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. Evan called 1 week later. Did you know? About Michelle? Before Nana's letter? No. Not until the letter. I've been looking stuff up. I called the lab. The DNA is real. I know. He won't talk to me. He's been locked in his room since the party. Evan paused. The party ended right after you left. Half the guests walked out within 10 minutes. Dad sat at the head table by himself until it got dark. I pictured it. Dean alone at a decorated table, surrounded by empty chairs. I waited for satisfaction to arrive. It didn't. Just a dull ache. Evan, you don't have to choose between us. I know, but I'm done pretending. His voice shifted. Softer. Maya's due in 4 months. It's a girl. My hand tightened on the phone. Maya told me something last week. She said if I ever treat our daughter the way Dad treated you, she'll walk out that door and never come back. I want her to know her Aunt Autumn. She will. I promise. The fallout came slow, steady. Within 2 weeks, 3 men from Dean's plumbing crew quit. All 3 had known Sarah. Dean's crew went from 6 to 3 overnight. The church noticed too. Dean had been a deacon for 15 years. The following Sunday, Dean's name was missing from the bulletin. The Thompsons brought a tin of cookies to Ben's shop one afternoon. For Autumn. Sarah was the kindest woman on the street. We should have said something sooner. A month after the party, a letter arrived. Hand-delivered by Evan. My name on the front in Dean's handwriting. The letter was short. 6 sentences. Autumn, I know things got out of hand. I made mistakes. The house is still your home if you want it. Come back so we can talk. Dad. I read it twice, looking for the word. The only word that would have mattered. It wasn't there. No, sorry. No, I was wrong. Just mistakes. Passive. Unnamed. I folded the letter. Put it in the drawer next to the returned envelope. Ben looked up from his workbench. You okay with that? I will be. 3 months passed. The sharpest edges softened. Not into forgiveness. Into distance. I kept working at Lincoln Park Medical Center. After my shift one day, I drove to Ben's shop. We ate lunch at his workbench. Your birthday's next month, Ben said. 30. What do you want to do? Bake a cake. A real one. Invite Evan and Maya. Invite Molly. Blow out the candles. Actually blow them out this time. Ben smiled. Finally get to do it right, he said. Yeah, finally. I looked up at the wall. The $50 bill was there, framed in a cheap black frame. I'd hung it the week I moved in. That bill was the price Dean put on me. I was worth more than that. I'd always been worth more than that. I just needed a while to believe it. Baby Sarah was born 2 months ago. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. I was in the waiting room. Evan came through the double doors, grinning so wide it looked like his face might split. You want to hold her? I held my niece. She had dark hair like mine. Like our mothers. Molly and Donna were at the hospital too. We stood around Maya's bed and passed that baby from arm to arm. And for a few minutes, we were the kind of family Sarah would have wanted. Dean? I don't know. I don't ask. I heard through Sean that he's still in the house on Maple Drive. Alone. The $50 bill is still framed on my wall. I see it every morning when I make coffee. It reminds me where I started. It reminds me what someone thought I was worth. It reminds me they were wrong. My name is Autumn Callahan. I am my father's daughter. Just not the father who threw me out. Thanks for listening. If this story reminded you of someone or of yourself, drop a comment and tell me what boundary you finally set. And if you want more stories about second chances, family secrets, and finding your real home, hit subscribe. Sometimes the family you choose matters more than the family you're born into.